was completely alone on the day I was diagnosed. Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, I am Lindy. I am a 46-year-old mother of 4 fighting breast cancer since January. So I am currently in between chemo and radiation. So chemo finished 2 weeks ago today, and radiation starts in 2 weeks. So I thought, I have never actually done my how was I diagnosed story. So this is what we are today. How was I diagnosed? So let's start with, I have no family history of breast cancer at all. Actually, we have no real history of cancer in our family. My great grandmother on my dad's side did have breast cancer, and my uncle, my dad's side, had bowel cancer probably 10-15 years ago now, but that's our extent of cancer in our family. So December last year, I decided coming into the new year that I would just get a health check, because I turned 45 last year. So, is that last year? Yep, so I turned 45 last year. So I just thought I was due for a mammogram because I had one at 45, 44. And so I just thought I'd have a pap smear, I would have my mammogram, I would have a skin check, and then I would just have a general health check being 45. So that was it. I just went in for a normal routine mammogram. The reason I had a mammogram in the first place at 44 with no family history, or whatever age I decided that I just was because I did have breast implants, and they were moving and they were uncomfortable, and I was getting pain. So I sort of used breast screen to see if they could see if anything was going wrong. So by the time I went back, my cat's going to push my camera. Kira, push. Kira, come on. Come on, push. Kira. There she is. So I just went in for a regular breast. Sorry, I did actually want to add in there that I did have pain, or was getting pain in my breasts. In general, just I don't know if it was because of implants or what, but I was in particular getting pain in the right breast, in that point where my cancer was. Sometimes it was a shooting pain, sometimes there was a dull pain there, sometimes there was no pain. But yeah, I did just want to actually mention there that I was experiencing pain in that particular area. As I said, I did get pain in some other areas as well, but that area in particular was a common area for me to get pain. Okay. So on the day, I have to think about on the day. So I just had my normal mammogram. I always knew there was a possibility I would either have an ultrasound that day or come back for an ultrasound, because with breast implants, it is just harder to see on mammograms. So anyway, so they did my mammogram, and then they did say that they saw what they thought was scar tissue around my near my right nipple on the inside. So they did an ultrasound straight away that day. While they were doing the ultrasound, they again said it did look like scar tissue, because with my previous, I had reconstruction surgery a year prior to this. And in that surgery I did have sutures around my areola. So they were assuming it was scar tissue, but they said that because scar tissue and cancer look very much alike, they would like to biopsy it. So I'm like, okay. So I went back out and I waited. I did go and see my doctor at that time, who ended up being my surgeon. He wasn't concerned, to be honest. He wasn't concerned. He had a feel around. He said he couldn't feel anything. My lumps were very cystic anyway. Like, I had a lot, to the point that on my left breast I could actually see cysts. That's how cystic they were. I had lumps where I could see them. I did not regularly check my breasts because they were cystic. I just didn't. Anyway, so I waited. They did 2 biopsies, because I don't know, I think they did see 2 separate spots at that stage. I can't remember, but they did take 2 biopsies at that stage. which took in the whole slither. Or did that take 3? No, they took 2. And then they make a snap noise, and on one of them I actually felt it, and that hurt, and I cried. So that was fine. So I was actually at breast screen that day for 6 hours, and I was still oblivious. I was absolutely oblivious to everything. I was just like, yeah. Anyway, so I came back the following Tuesday, which was January the 19th, to get my results. I was not concerned in any way. I did not for one second contemplate that it was cancer. Like, in my head, they were so nonchalant about it being scar tissue, and the fact that I'd seen the surgeon and he'd had a feel around and I'd had a feel around, and I was not concerned at all. I did not take a support person. I was completely alone on the day I was diagnosed. So when I went in, they called me in, and like the doctor, I'd never seen that doctor before, but the nurse that was there, I had that very fleeting thought of, why is she coming in too? Like, I still didn't click, but I did have that very fleeting thought of, why is the nurse coming in too? We were masked because it was January, and the doctor just straight away, she just said, the news isn't what we were hoping. It's cancer. And I've just, like, it was such a surreal moment. Like, it didn't, I don't know, I imagined, I don't know, but she just said it's not what we imagined. It is cancer. I remember I had the mask on because I sort of kind of just started hyperventilating. I started crying in the mask. I'm like, like, it was such a shock. I don't know if she even told me any more before I tried to ring my husband. And of course I couldn't get through to him. He works on construction. He answered the phone, but he couldn't hear me, and it cut off, and I was hysterical. Like, I was just crying. I wouldn't say I was hysterical, but he couldn't really understand me, I guess. It was just not good. And so no one could touch me because it was like right in the middle of COVID. So I think maybe the nurse might have touched my knee. I remember ripping my mask off, and just being in shock. So they basically, from what I remember, they basically told me that it was 2 spots, roughly around 1 centimetre each, maybe 2 centimetres. I think one was 1 centimetre and one was 2 centimetres, I think. At that time, they said it was grade 2. And they said I would probably just have a lumpectomy and radiation. So I remember walking out of there just shocked. Absolutely shocked. I didn't ring Shane straight away. I waited till I got back to the car to ring Shane so I could sit down and actually talk to him. But I remember just walking and crying through Ipswich, and thankfully we had to wear masks, and I had my glasses on, a mask, and I was just sobbing, just crying, and just remember thinking, thank God we had masks, because no one could literally see that I was crying. I was just crying all the way through as I was walking. I can't remember if my friend rang me or if I rang my friend or if I had texted her. I honestly can't remember. But I remember talking to her on the phone as I was walking and crying, and I ended up sitting down and crying and talking to her. And then when I got back to the car, I spoke to Shane. And that was pretty much it, really. Just that was the being diagnosed. We didn't tell the kids for about 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks. It was a long process of finding out anything from that point. It was the unknown was awful. I think it was like 3 weeks until I saw 3 weeks. Was it even more? I think it was 3 weeks till I saw the surgeon for the first time. And he didn't really tell me much more. I just remember, if you go back on my videos, you can see that I just was not finding out any information about anything. It was awful. I didn't get graded, of course, until after my mastectomy. So from diagnosis to mastectomy was 7 weeks. And that was just awful, 7 weeks. That was probably the worst 7 weeks of the whole lot. So I'm now 8 months in. 19th of January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, 8 months in this week. And that definitely, that first 7 weeks was the worst. I told Mum and Dad and my siblings all on the way home, I think, and my daughter. I rang them and just told them all over the phone, crying every time. I just remember at first, though, like that walk from breast screen to my car, or to just in the beginning, I honestly was so naive. I honestly thought that they were just going to cut out these 2 lumps. I didn't realise radiation was as full on as radiation is, and I'm like, oh, they're just going to cut out these 2 lumps and I'm going to have radiation, and it's like I'm never even going to have breast cancer. Like it's like I'm going to be a fraud. That how can you say cancer when they just cut it out and it's done? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was so naive. So naive. I never at that point ever imagined that I would actually be at the full brunt of treatment, and that I would actually be a cancer patient. I don't know if I can even still believe that I'm a cancer patient. Like, for me, I am still living with just one day at a time. Because as you can see, the minute I actually think about it, I do get upset. But in general, I don't. I'm literally just taking every day as it comes. So yeah, so that was my diagnosis. I don't know if that was interesting or not. Did I tell it all? From that diagnosis, I do plan to do a What's Life Like with Cancer video, which will be a huge one. But from that breast screen, so I had the mammogram, then I had an ultrasound, then I had the biopsies. I think I had, I don't know the order of my scans, but then I have had an MRI, I've had a CT, I've had a PET, and I had another scan. So I did have a lot of scans after that, but my diagnosis of stage 2B hormone receptive breast cancer came from the mastectomy. My diagnosis before that, I wasn't staged. I guess if you wanted to stage me, I would have been maybe 1B. I was going to say something else. I hate it when it just completely goes from me. Staging to, at that stage, on my with my first pathology from the biopsy, I was grade 2. I was downgraded to grade 1, which is good because that's the slowest growing cancer. So yeah, so that's my diagnosis. It has been a different life since then, and I absolutely miss my old life. The funny thing was, actually, about a week, maybe 2 weeks before my diagnosis, I was at work. So yes, we were talking at work. A lady at work, her husband had passed from cancer within 6 weeks of his diagnosis, and I literally I said to everyone, you just don't know what tomorrow holds. Like, you just don't know. You just don't know. Like, it could be you, it could be, your life can change just like that. Whether it be cancer, whether it be a car accident, whether it be anything, like anyone's life can change just like that. I didn't mean me when I was saying that. The amount of times I thought that I said that, and then 2 weeks later it was literally me. Like, what did I do to myself? Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for everything, just for your support, and I really appreciate you all. And thank you. Please press like if you liked it. Please comment. I love your comments. I think I'm behind on the last lot of comments, actually. And please subscribe, of course. Please subscribe. We've still got a little bit way to go in our journey. As I said, I've still got radiation to go, and then we go on to, we have one more surgery, or hopefully one more surgery with hysterectomy. And hormone therapy, that scares me. People have scared me about that. And then eventually I will go and see a reconstruction surgeon, and we make that decision whether we go with aesthetic flat closure, which I have always said I am not against, or whether we go with reconstruction, which would be a deep flat reconstruction. I can't have implants, my body doesn't like them. So yeah, thank you.